Let's talk about schizophrenia with leading psychiatrist.
Hello, this is Dr. Satyabrata Das. I am a psychiatrist at Apollo Hospital, Bhubaneswar. Today I will be talking about living with schizophrenia on this Schizophrenia Day. Schizophrenia is a difficult illness with consequences impacting the entire lifetime of the patient. Fortunately, the prognosis of schizophrenia in India is much better than the Western world for unclear reasons. No matter how difficult the illness, with the scientific advancement and the advent of modern medicines, the devastating effect of schizophrenia has been considerably reduced in the present times. Also, early identification and initiation of treatment is now possible with more trained mental health professionals available in India in comparison to the past. People with diagnosis of schizophrenia are now being available or being able to live productive lives with successful employment and relatively healthy social lives. India has a huge population with almost an estimated 50 crores staying in rural areas. A big challenge has been the progress in spreading awareness in the population regarding identification, treatment, and possibility of relatively healthy social and occupational functioning. Schizophrenia, once clinically manifests, the patient starts showing psychotic symptoms such as hearing of voices, suspecting people around of conspiracy, feeling that people around are talking ill of him or her, loss of reasoning, derailments in the goal-directed speech, social withdrawal, lack of self-care, and others. So, if we see such early signs, then it can lead to early diagnosis and initiation of treatment. And if this is not done, then the symptoms persist and precious productive lives of the patient are lost due to the illness. And the illness leaves irreversible changes in the brain, leading to deficits in social and intellectual functioning all through the patient's life. So therefore, if it is not managed early, then what happens is the patient will continue to have these deficits persisting not only all through the life, but also it will be much more hazardous to the patient if it is the longer the delay in the identification and the treatment is. That said, if identified and treated early, the patient escapes schizophrenia with lesser damage to the brain. Most patients, therefore, are able to continue studies, find employment, and even maintain social lives. Depending on how soon the identification and treatment initiation is done, the degree of impairment in functioning exists. That means if the patient is identified early in the course of the illness, say in the starting months or even within a year, then the damage done to the patient by the illness is pretty much lesser and can be the patient can be managed to live a normal and productive life. If in early treatment initiated patients, barring strong social judgment, so some social judgment issues, diplomatic dialogues and negotiation capacities, and emotional expression issues, the patient pretty much manages life normally. So generally, they struggle with managing social judgment, complicated social judgment issues, not really intellectual, but the diplomatic challenges, meaning the negotiation capacities and the emotional expression issues. They don't know exactly how. The normal flow of emotions is lesser in them. So other than these minor problems, if they're treated early, then they manage life normally. So if social environment is made conducive, so that means with these deficits, if the social environment is made more conducive for the patient, such as the lack of criticism, that there are not a lot of people in the household criticizing him every day, day in and day out, and less complicated relationships to handle. That means it is a pretty much a nuclear family or a smaller family with not complicated relationships around him, and the occupation is chosen which requires minimal people managing requirements, such as information technology jobs where he sits in front of the computer and works in software or like developing software. Writing jobs where he's a writer, write something, or pretty much written drafts things. teaching jobs where yes, it interacts with the pupils, the students, but there isn't really much of like social interaction going on. Financial jobs where again it's just the him and and the computer, the books, data managing and record keeping jobs, then it becomes easier for schizophrenic to manage life better with a lesser possibility of relapses. On the overall, currently the diagnosis of schizophrenia is no longer a doomsday judgment as it used to be in the past. If you say of schizophrenia, then people are scared. The word schizophrenia is fearful to them, and it is like a judgment pronounced for life. So it is no longer a doomsday judgment as in the past, but a challenge which can be managed with sincere effort. So if you manage in the current challenge with efforts, it will be easier to manage all with all the deficits. And also, what happens is the law also does not really go back to diagnosis, and if a diagnosis is pronounced, that becomes the ultimate. The final verdict. But if the person is functional, the functionality of the patient actually determines who is, fit for a job or not fit for a job. The law also, the current Mental Health Act also supports it, irrespective of whatever the diagnosis may be. So, with this, I can again say that it is no longer a doomsday judgment as in the past, but it's a challenge which can be managed with sincere efforts. Thank you.